Today's video deals with real-life bullying experiences.
Members of the YouTube community have been both kind and brave enough to share their experiences with you.
They are sharing these experiences to help any of you out there who has been bullied too.
Lilies are like...
Hello, I'm Kick the PJ, and for Anti-Bullying Week I'm going to be talking about my experiences with bullying. I never really experienced bullying through primary school. It was everyone was kind of nice and stuff, and then I got to secondary school and I realised what it was like to get picked on and how mean kids can really be. I got called names and stuff. I was quite chubby when I was a child, so that was their main target of attack. And I was bullied quite badly for the first few years, but then kind of toned down a bit and it got less bad. I'd feel really stupid for crying in the middle of class, and yes, they made me cry quite a lot. I remember one boy took my Superflex ruler and he kept hitting me with it, and he was hitting me so hard that it snapped and I cried, and I wasn't sure if I was crying because it hurt so much or he'd broke my favourite ruler. I'd always come home really upset and then lie to my parents about it and just say that it was nothing. Then I'd use the excuse that, oh, I'm too ill to go into school, so I wouldn't have to go in. But eventually they kind of clocked what was going on and they got in contact with the school got in contact with the bully's parents, and it didn't end very well for me. See, they always say, if you're getting bullied, get in contact with a teacher, and in most cases I think that does work, but in my case it didn't. I'm just being honest here. It just made things worse for me. Although I did take matters into my own hands and I just kind of learnt to take it on the chin. I kind of ignored what they were saying and just got on with what I was doing, and they went away. And I think that's probably the best advice you could give. Just kind of ignore them and they just go away. They crawl back into their holes where they come from, and everything works out fine. I hope this has helped in some way, and I hope you can share your experiences with bullying as well.
I was bullied quite a lot at school, mainly for my hair colour, of all things. I had the usual redhead type stuff, you know. I guess it's more of an obvious thing, like, you're different, you have red hair, not a lot of people have that, you must be weird. I mean, you wouldn't go up to a blonde person and go, haha, you're blonde, or brown haired person go, haha, you're brown hair. It's just an excuse to bully, I guess. When I look back on it, I think it was mainly because of my personality as well. I've always been very open and to the point with a lot of things, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. I had a fair mixture of both emotional and physical bullying. Physically, I remember having my hair pulled out on the side of the road. Other things I remember is I always had a fear of getting the bus home from school because a lot of the bullies lived up around my area and it was a great time to target me out of school. Even at one point I had to get my dad to come and collect me from the bus stop, which was physically meters away from my doorstep of my house, because I was that scared to get off on my own because I thought something was going to happen to me. It took me to year 11 to actually stand up for myself, which is about age 15 to 16. The way I went about it was I just confronted them. They said a comment to me, which I'm not really going to repeat, one day, and I basically turned around and said, so what? I didn't let them get to me. I just kind of ignored their comment, made them know that I wasn't bothered by it anymore, and they actually went away.
First thing I can think of, this is the obvious thing really, was that I was bullied out of 4 schools and bullied in the 5th, but I finished my education in the 5th. A lot has happened. When I was in year 7, in my first year in comp, I was bullied by 6th formers, and on one occasion they waited for me outside the school and grabbed me and threw me down this huge steep embankment outside the part of the school grounds, and about 20 foot, I'm not exaggerating, it's about 20 foot, quite steep hill. They threw me down that and I landed in a pool of muddy water, a huge puddle of muddy water, because it's Wales, it had been raining, and I was filthy, muddy, uniform, brown as hell. On another occasion I was actually outside school and a group of people who knew who I was decided to throw rocks at me and my then girlfriend. and chased us around the town, basically just throwing stuff at us, and that kind of thing scared people away from being friends with me because they didn't want to be someone who was associated with me, so they themselves didn't get the treatment that I got. They decided to gang up on me 5-on-1 and beat me into a corner of the school and just got me on the floor and started kicking crap out of me.
I was around 7 or 8 years old, and I was surrounded by a gang of around 4 or 5 boys, and they were all sort of shouting taunts like fag, puff, queer. And that was a time when fag and faggot meant like the worst thing you could possibly think of. It meant dying of AIDS, it meant like dirty gays, and the internet didn't exist. There wasn't that sort of that virtual hand to hold, and it was difficult. And I remember one of them forcing me to the ground and saying, "Kiss my trainer or we'll kick your head in," and I did it because I had no choice, and I didn't say anything to anyone, and if I did, would I get it worse? I remember people coming up to me saying, "Are you gay? Are you gay? Are you a queer? Are you a puff?" And just sort of like freezing and not knowing what that was or who I was. And it was only later on that I came out. Like, I'm 29 now and I came out when I was 28. Even though I've always known and people have always known, it was like everyone else knew before me, and they made a point of telling me and using it to abuse me. It seems odd because now sort of gay people seem to be embraced by the media. But before it was like, don't ask, don't tell. It was like a dirty word. You were just left to feel like you meant nothing, like you were a stain that needed to be got rid of. And that's how I felt at school. That's how a lot of people treated me. It was only when I became a performer and a singer and got involved in the community of school that I felt like I had arrived. And with Cheek TV, it's a creation using the puppet to put on a front, put on a mask, hide the insecurities, reach out to people yet still hold something back. Unfortunately, despite the smile, that picture shows me a lot of sadness, and the scars remain. I think that's what people don't understand, that it stays with you. That feeling of worthlessness, that insecurity, that being on the edge, the nervousness, waiting for the next beating, waiting to next be called something. You can hide behind a puppet, you can hide behind a keyboard, but the scars remain.
Up to a certain point, I was really happy. I had a really good life as far as I was concerned. Then when I hit the wonder that is puberty, I started having feelings that I didn't understand. I started fancying other boys, and although I was never bullied for it by anybody else, I had a massive problem with the fact that I was, without knowing, gay. I basically bullied myself through the majority of my teens and into my 20s because of it. As far as I was concerned, it was wrong, it was disgusting, it was perverted, sick, and as far as I was concerned, I didn't deserve to live, if I'm quite truthful about it. On the outside, to the best of my ability, I was a happy individual. I guess that's when I started trying to make people laugh, because I tried to cover up how absolutely miserable and alone I felt with humour. For quite a while it worked, but then when I hit about 14, 15, 16, it just became a nightmare. I couldn't talk to anybody about it because I couldn't admit the feelings to myself. I did everything in my power, everything I could to try and make myself be normal.
I was in secondary school and I thought I was fitting in and everything, until the girl who was supposedly my best friend turned around to me and literally said the words, "I don't think you're good enough for me anymore." She wanted to be with the cooler kids who smoked and had sex, and I wasn't that girl. And the bullying got so bad, I ran to the toilets one day and cried, and that's all I could do. I had nothing else, and after that the school let me go home every lunchtime because the bullying was so severe, and I found it really, really hard. And to some extent it still affects me. I remember when I told my teachers, they said we didn't have a bullying problem in the school. If it wasn't for my family, I would be such an awful person. I'd probably be really bitter and I wouldn't be where I am right now. I'd rather try and forgive, and those that I cannot forgive, well, I try and forget. I think I might be reiterating some people, but it does get better. So all that's left to say is I really hope these bullying videos help you. I think they're such an important tool and I wish I had them. I so wish I had them when I was going through what I was going through.
So if you're ever suffering, feeling helpless, just struggling with a particular situation involving bullying, just please understand that there are always people who can help you, and organisations as well. Some of them will be actually in the description of this video. But if you are out and about and you see someone else being bullied, don't just sit back. Realise you can make a difference and make a stand and help out. It's something that I remember doing when I was at school, and it always worked out for the better, because the bullies will always continue with what they're doing until they're challenged by people who are from outside that situation. And if you feel you can't do that yourself, then obviously speak to someone who you feel can, whether it's a teacher, parent or a friend.
If you've been affected by any of the issues in this video, please keep watching for further information.